tricky.
Did you know that you're not the only one who gets confused by the minions and finds them all very similar, or even the same? That's because even they think they look alike. The proof of this is the deleted scene that happens in the Minions movie when we see Bob inside the real Castle of England in what seems to be a hall of mirrors. And he really seems to be having a lot of fun with his own reflection. And he ends up jumping so much that he reaches the end of the mirrors, but there's something wrong. That's because Bob's reflection has hair while he has none. That's because it's not a reflection, but another minion who jumped behind the mirror and pretended to be Bob, who didn't even realize it wasn't him. The other minion then gives him a big scare and starts laughing, in true minion style. This scene ended up being cut from the movie to shorten the Minions film, unfortunately because it proved that even the minions end up confusing themselves. That was the first of the 12 deleted scenes from the Minions and Despicable Me franchise that we're going to show you today. To discover them all, just stick around until the end of the video with us. Edith's Mischiefs. Now moving on to Despicable Me 3, we have one of the funniest deleted scenes of all, and it involves Gru's most mischievous daughter, Edith. We see her and Agnes in the forest searching for the lost unicorn. Edith comments that she wants to leave because she wants to see how Drew's butler is doing, since she put itching powder in his clothes. And after that, we see the situation of the poor fellow, trying to relieve himself in every possible way, with simply crazy itching. Honestly, I felt so sorry for the poor guy. And we know that Edith has been teasing him since she arrived at Uncle's mansion. I think worse things are yet to come in the next movies.
I put itching powder in Fritz's underwear drawer and I don't want to miss all the fun!
Scout Minions. One of the coolest deleted scenes from the Minions happens when the three little yellow creatures are lending their evil services, believe it or not, at a scout camp. And they spend quite some time trying to make fire until a moment when a minion who looks a lot like Kevin loses it and decides to light the bonfire with a bazooka. Seriously, who brings a bazooka to a camp? But precisely at that moment, the other two finally manage to light the fire and are rewarded with a medal. The catch is that Kevin, a little earlier, accidentally fired the bazooka and blew up the dam behind them, causing a flood. Then they reappear completely beat up, but Agnes gives them the 3 badges they would have won if they hadn't accidentally killed the scout instructor by drowning him. Grus kidnapping. Now, let's talk about a deleted scene that never even got filmed. We know that in Despicable Me, there's a rivalry between Vector and Gru, but originally, the idea was that it would be much more intense. An example of this is that the creator's idea was that at a certain point, Vector would kidnap Gru from inside his own house. This would sort of make the girls have to rescue Gru instead of the other way around, as it actually happened in the movie. And if you're a fan of Despicable Me and Minions movies, we have a tip for you. Subscribe to this channel to not miss our amazing upcoming videos about animations and movies. The sad end of the nobleman. Without a doubt, one of the most striking scenes of the first Minions movie was the moment when Bob pulls Excalibur from the stone. But that wasn't the first time that sword would have been shown in the movie because it was in a deleted scene. It takes place in the Middle Ages, and the minions are working as servants in a medieval castle. And at the moments when they are removing excess water from the castle walls, some sort of nobleman rushes by and ends up slipping on one of the puddles. The detail is that he was carrying a sword, and it ends up being thrown up and falling back down. Yes, it was game over for the nobleman, and you can even see the minions laughing when he takes the fall. But they are surprised when the sword falls and ends the royal lineage. Since it's a children's movie, we don't need to explain much why the scene was deleted, right?
It's got tricky.
Gru and his shrunken daughters. Returning to the rivalry between Gru and Vector, in some of the scenes where they end up facing each other, we see that at some point both Gru and the girls would end up being shrunk with the shrink ray. And while Vector would chase the kids and Gru with one of his famous piranha guns, Gru and the girls would be so small that they would hide behind some donuts on the table.
I promise that this wig will transform you from ugly to irresistible.
Gru's heartbreak. If we have funny deleted scenes, we have at least one that's pretty sad. It exists in the movie, but in a smaller version. It happens when Gru was still a child, and it would originally be in the movie Despicable Me 2. We see Gru gathering courage to talk to a classmate and give her a small flower. He tries to get the attention of the girl named Lisa and ends up touching her arm. When he does that, another girl starts screaming that he was passing Grudies to her as if it were a disease. Immediately, all the kids run away from the school playground because it seems like they believe Gru has some kind of highly contagious disease.
Hey Lisa, I was wondering if you...
Ew! Gru touched Lisa! Gru touched Lisa!
And now comes the completely deleted part where we see the kids throwing themselves off swings, jumping into trash cans, and even trying to get on a moving school bus, leaving poor Gru completely alone and desolate. All of this for Gru to remember why he was so afraid to call Lucy, since that was the origin of his girl trouble. But as Gru overcame this block, today he is married and a father of 4 children, including Gru Jr. So if you like this super funny family, comment down below, #Lucy, because thanks to her, the family is even bigger now. Gru's garden. In another scene that didn't even make it into production by the film's team, we can see that the idea was to show that Gru wasn't so bad, since he even had a garden with flowers and watered them. But if you look closely at this scene that ended up being completely deleted, we can see that what Gru is using on the plants isn't water, but acid, and that the poison symbol is plastered on the watering can of the then supervillain. In other words, the flower is being completely dissolved. It really seems like Gru's forte is plants that don't need to be fed by someone, but rather plants that feed themselves, like the carnivorous plants he has in his room. Circus seal. Another deleted scene happens exactly at that time when the minions were living in what seems to be the North Pole before a group of snowmen appears and they start being their servants. And to celebrate, they simply put on a musical performance. And yes, all of this is in the first Minions movie. What is nowhere to be found is the part where, when the minions are completely bored, they use a trained seal as part of a performance, where it balances on a barrel while juggling. We're not sure, but the scene may have been removed to avoid problems with animal protection societies. At least, that's what we think. Kids' revenge. One of the deleted scenes from the movie was one of the coolest that appeared in the official trailer for the first film. But it deserves a bit of context. Remember when the first film starts and Gru makes a balloon dog and gives it to a little boy and makes him happy, just to then pop the balloon? It also appears in the trailer right at the beginning, to show how mean Gru was. So, after trying to invade Vector's fortress and failing miserably, in the end Gru is hit by dozens of missiles. And as soon as he comes out of the crater formed by the missiles, in the movie originally, he sees the girls entering Vector's fortress without any problem. But in the trailer, the little boy that Gru teased comes back for revenge and brings with him the company of 2 other extremely threatening children. One with a water gun and the other with a baseball bat. And that part never appeared at any moment in the first film, and I quite liked it.
You have got to be kidding me.
Super cute rocket. Now this scene that we're going to tell you about, we really don't understand why it was deleted. Can you believe that originally the rocket that would take Gru into space, with the aim of finally stealing his beloved moon, would be completely different? That's because the animators intended to make the rocket in the complete shape of a teddy bear. It would be a tribute to the girls for sure, but at the same time it would be quite similar to Bob's teddy bear, one of the minions. Don't you agree? Squid Weapon. In another scene that was seen only in the trailers but didn't make it onto the first film, we see that Vector and his daddy are debating on how Gru was able to steal the shrink ray that Vector had stolen from Gru, who had in turn stolen it from the Asian scientists. Got it? Anyway, the fact is that Vector is going to show his dad how his squid weapon works, and that also happens in the movie. The little snippet from the trailer that was deleted from the final version that we all watched shows that the squid thrown by Vector ended up hitting some villain who was in line at the Bank of Evil.
Oh yeah!
There's a squid on my face! What?
I would have loved to see that in the movie. Too bad they had to cut it to make the movie a bit shorter. You've just seen the 12 coolest deleted scenes from the Despicable Me and Minions franchise. And you, just like us, must be dying to watch the next movie of Gru and his family. While that doesn't happen, we've separated these 2 videos for you to keep watching super cool stuff about animations and movies. Just choose and click on them.